Wow, what a crazy time to be in the crypto market. Welcome dear crypto friends. Let us get right into the video and try to understand how low the crypto market will go and where the bottom of this crazy dump is and what the hell is actually happening. So the long-term chart, right? This is the long-term weekly Bitcoin chart, and we see that we are nearing the lower end of this long-term trend channel. And the last time we saw such a crazy dump was in the COVID low of 2020, right? If we go to the COVID low, let's just go to the daily chart. I can still remember that there was a lot of fear in the market, and this was absolutely not super obvious that this would be a very fast recovery, right? It was not super obvious that we would go down and we would see a V recovery and immediately go into a rally. There were a lot of people saying that actually we are going down now and this is just the beginning and we get a second leg down. There were a lot of people thinking like that, so this is not super obvious. Now taking this low from back then and overlaying it, we can see the following, right? We can see actually it would fit quite nicely if we would go, let's go back to the weekly chart, if we hit almost exactly the weekly moving average of 290 weeks, right? It would fit quite perfectly. If we go again into the daily, we can see that the speed with which this thing is falling is actually not too dissimilar. You know, the whole move here, it's not too dissimilar. So if we reach now the bottom today, tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow, we are pretty much in line with what happened in March 2020. So this is not a new situation, but of course, every time this feels insanely brutal and insanely crazy because the reason is every time a different one, right? And the narrative is every time that this time is even more insane than the last time. Like the reasons why this is happening now is so much crazier than last time. But this was, I can tell you, I witnessed many such flash crashes since I started with crypto 9 years ago, and it was every time said that this time is really so brutal that Bitcoin will not recover, crypto will not recover, we will go down much lower. This is every time the narrative, and every time it feels so realistic and so brutal. But in fact, it's not different from what happened in the past. This is just another one of those instances where we get cheap coins and we can load up our bags, you know, and we can have cheap coins, you know. This is one of those instances. And I think this will be a flash crash, very similar to the COVID low. We will rebound like crazy and the whole market will completely turn around. Now, how low will this go? Well, I think realistically we could hit the MA200, but with the speed that this is going down, we could also hit the MA290. We could go down to the MA290, then we get a recovery, and then it depends. What will happen afterwards will depend on the macroeconomic situation. Will the dollar index go down? Let's look at the dollar index. Now the dollar index is indeed pumping, it's over 104 now. As we said, the dollar index just wants to go higher, and I used this fractal here. If we just go into the weekly chart, I used this fractal here and said that there's a strong similarity. If we just stretch this out, we see that this whole thing, this weird structure here, is actually quite similar to what already happened, and we can assume that the way this is going, there will be a correction very soon. It cannot just continue pumping like that. I assume that at the latest at 109, the dollar index will correct, because this is also what happened in the last run. Even if it goes to much higher value, there will be an intermediate correction at some point, and this is the time when Bitcoin will start going up. Now, depending on when we will see this correction, right? Will we see it next week or in 4 months? Depending on when that will be, that is the time, friends, that is the time then when we are going to see the next Bitcoin recovery and possibly even rally. Because as we said, no one is believing it now. It's clear no one believes it, but this whole thing could be a famous expanded flat. I know you cannot hear it anymore, but I'm one of the few persons talking about it, and this is a legitimate way that a rally can unfold. It's not very common, but it can happen that you have like, this is wave one of a move, and then you have like an A, B, C type move where the C leg is lower than the A leg, and we don't know how low it will be, but at least down to the MA200 level, if not MA290. And then from there we can, in theory, go directly into a new rally, believe it or not. That is the crazy thing about it. We can go into a new rally. And Bitcoin is also giving very strong signs that the bottom is very, very near. If we look at the weekly chart, right, and we go into the RSI, the RSI has been lowest in January 2015 at 28.17, then in December 2018 at 28.63. During the COVID low, actually, it has been at 33, so we are now lower than the COVID low. Just think about it. The weekly RSI is now lower than during the COVID low in March 2020. So the lowest it can actually go, I think, is around this area, 28. And if we zoom in here, and if this continues, like if it would dump for another week like this, then the RSI would actually go to at least 28, maybe even 27. If we just prolong this line here, this RSI line, how steep it comes down, we can see, in 1 week, we will actually be as low as 27. So the RSI, the weekly RSI, would actually make a new historical low if we continue dumping for another week. Okay? And the RSI in the weekly, these values of the RSI have always marked a long-term bottom. Always. The RSI then always recovered, and we went far higher and never came back down to such prices again. Except with maybe this thing here. This was an exception where the price actually came down again and we hit the same area a second time. But normally this marks long-term bottoms, and I think a similar situation will play out this time because of course, now there's Tether and there's all these things surrounding Tether, and Tether is kind of decoupling, and there's fears that with the whole Luna Terra stuff that Tether will implode now. The reasons seem every time very convincing as to why this time Bitcoin and crypto will certainly implode. Every time it seems super convincing, every single time. But this time is not different than the last times. It's not. It's just, if you look at it and if you see it from a purely technical analysis perspective, this is not something crazy. This is not something new. This has happened before. So if we just see it as an Elliott wave continuation pattern, we could indeed interpret this here as an expanded flat, even if it goes down to the MA290. And as I said, because it's dropping so insanely fast with such a crazy speed, we will have reached a historical new low in the RSI, in the weekly RSI, already next week. So I think at the latest, if we keep up this pace, next week, the next weekly candle marks the absolute low. And today is Thursday, so already in 4 days, on Monday next week, we could see the low and maybe a new historical weekly low in the RSI. And these are always perfect buying opportunities. So if you want to make money in this market, it's actually not insanely difficult. You always buy when everyone is super fearful, like Warren Buffett said, right? Be greedy when everyone is fearful, and be fearful when everyone is greedy. So this is a perfect buying opportunity. And the next rally, even if the dollar index will pump now for a few more months. Okay, let's say worst case is happening now, even if the dollar continues pumping for a few more months. We go down to the MA290, we wobble around, we go down a second time. Let's say we go down a second time because the dollar just continues pumping like crazy. We still will rebound and at some point have a new rally. We still will. And the probability is just too high that you won't get a chance like this too soon again. Maybe in 3 years, in 2 years, but this is a chance that comes if we see on average how often does such a chance come, like here January 2015, August 2015, yeah, maybe here these flash crashes on the way up in 2017, maybe here, or the China ban in July 2017, then of course the low in 2018, then the COVID low. So you see on average such a chance comes only once a year or once in 2 years. So this is a very nice chance to load up on cheap coins. I will certainly do that. You can do your own thing. Please do not follow what I'm saying anyways and just giving my opinion. You should always do your own research and come to your own conclusions, right? I'm not a financial advisor. So I'm loading up on cheap coins now, and the next rally will certainly come. Okay, the next rally will 100% come. Looking at some altcoins, XRP for example is doing as we said, and it's actually making a new low in the weekly RSI. Just think about it. It is making a new low in the weekly RSI. So I am pretty positive that either this or next week XRP will have seen the low, and we said it can go to as low as 15 cents in an extreme scenario. If Bitcoin really goes down to the MA 290 at 17,000, I think XRP will hit 15 cents and then recover. And then depending on what Bitcoin will do, we might actually, if Bitcoin really does an expanded flat, then actually continue going directly into a rally. And as we said in the last video, this would be very similar to what Bitcoin did in 2020 after the COVID low. The same for ETH. If you actually look at the ETH chart, it doesn't look too bad. In the grand scheme of things, this looks like a nice chart, right? And ETH also, like, the weekly RSI is nearing the lowest it has ever been. The lowest it was in 2018, and we are now at 33. The lowest was at 28. So we are not so far away anymore. So you see, all coins are super oversold, and just from a technical perspective, we can really see that the market is nearing a bottom, right? It is nearing a bottom, and this is not something that hasn't happened before. We look at the old chart, like if we look at this dump, this doesn't look more insane than this one, or for example this one. So the market was doing stuff like that many times, and yes, this feels brutal every time you think that this time is more insane, but it's not, okay? It's just a crash like we have witnessed many times in the crypto market. The crypto market will recover and Bitcoin will go to $100,000 and above. It's only a matter of time when this will happen. Remember that, it's only a matter of time. If you found this video useful, please like the video and maybe even subscribe to the channel. I'm doing daily updates now on the crypto market and providing my opinions of 9 years of experience in the crypto market. I am not always right, please be aware. Like every other investor, trader, I am saying stuff that sometimes turns out to be wrong. That is clear. Please don't expect me to always make super accurate predictions. But I can tell you that 9 years of experience in the crypto market makes you sometimes develop a feeling for what is happening and when there's a good time to buy. And I personally think that now is a pretty good time to load up on coins. You know, that's a pretty good time. It doesn't get much better than what we are currently experiencing. So then friends, see you tomorrow in the next video. Bye.